This is your weekly moment of growth. Happy Valentines Day, everybody. Hopefully you are with your significant other and your loved one today. And if not, if you're single, hopefully you are loving the hell out of being single. Now, before I get to the episode today, I wanted to let you guys know that tickets to Growth Now Movement Live, today only, meaning Valentine's Day only, are buy one, get one free. Look, Growth Now Movement Live is about leveling up your life and your relationships as much as it is about leveling up your happiness and your business. So this is an incredible gift to give to your significant other. And if you're single, give it to a friend. I promise you this will be the greatest gift that they can ever receive. I mean, not only the fun that we'll have together at the event, not only the amazing connections, not only everything that goes into it, but it's going to level up these individuals' lives and your lives beyond that day. I promise you that it is a life-changing event. And so make sure that you get your tickets right this second. Hit pause, go to gnmlive.com, buy your tickets because today only it is buy one, get one free for general admission and VIP. So do not miss out. Now, in this week's moment of growth, I wanted to share with you guys a story of choosing to live in abundance versus having a scarcity mindset. And a scarcity mindset is something that I lived in for a very, very long time. And I realized that when I was afraid of going broke, when I was afraid of not being able to pay my bills, when I was afraid of spending money when I wasn't sure where the money was coming from, I didn't make any money. But when I made the conscious decision to go all in at all times, to make sure I'm in the right room, to make sure I'm connecting with the right people, everything started to unfold for me because I started to surround myself with the right people. And I want to share with you a story specifically of something that I went through just a couple years ago when I was unsure of whether my business was going to take off or not. So let me paint the picture. This podcast had just begun to blow up. Inc. magazine listed me as a top 8 podcast. The audience was growing and people started asking me, how do I podcast? How do I grow my podcast? And this is when I just first started to build the business, but I wasn't really sure the best, most effective way to do that for myself. So I wasn't really making any money. And to be completely honest with you, I didn't know if I would be able to pay the next month's rent or my car payment or anything else in between. And during this time, since I was getting the national publicity for the podcast, I got asked to speak at an event, but I had to pay my own way to get there. I had to pay for my flight. I had to pay for my hotel. And so I had this great internal struggle of, should I be there? Should I show up to teach podcasting? Do I belong? Can I really afford it? And I was truly, truly worried about, where that next income was going to come from for me to be able to go and be a part of something like this. So I made the conscious decision that being in that room, speaking on that stage and connecting with those people was way more important than anything else. And so I invested the money to fly down. I paid for my hotel room and I was almost pretty much tapped out. Like I was like, this is terrifying. Hopefully I can eat while I'm there. And so the one day I spoke and a bunch of the speakers, we went out that night. We just went to the hotel bar to have a couple drinks and talk and connect and really start to form those relationships. And the people in this circle are now people who are my friends and actually former guests of the show, like Susie Miller, who's also speaking at Growth Now Movement Live, and Mike Kim and Jeff Goins. And so it was in a very, very powerful table of successful individuals. And I thought that I had to play this role and fit in. Therefore, I chose to live in abundance. And so what had happened was the bartender comes over to the table and says to Mike, what are you guys drinking? And Mike says, well, what scotch do you have? And she had mentioned a scotch. I think it was Glenlivet 18 or 20. I don't really remember the year. And he goes, okay, great, I'll have that. And the question was, do you want a single or double? And Mike Kim looked at the waitress and said, what's the price difference? And she said it was $45 for a single or $65 for a double. And he goes, I'll have a double. And the waitress went around the table and every single other person at that table said, I'll do the same thing. And I was the last person at the table. And in my head, I was like, I can't believe this is happening. I literally have no money. I don't know how I'm going to be able to afford this, but I can't act like I don't belong. I can't live in this scarcity mindset. And so I looked at the waitress and I said, I'll have the same thing. And so we all have our drink and I'm slowly sipping this drink. And just wrapping up, I'm thinking the night's about to come to an end. And the waitress comes back and says, can I get you guys anything else? And Mike Kim goes, yeah, I'll have another one. And the waitress goes around the table and everybody else says, yeah, I'll have one more. And she comes to me and I take a big gulp and I go, I'll have another one. And I did, and like I said, I didn't know if this was the right place for me to be or not, right? And I was like, I can't afford this. And the end of the night, moral of the story is, Mike Kim ended up paying for everybody's drinks. I didn't have to pay the money. But the point of this is, if I didn't belong at that table, my life wouldn't have shifted. Mike shared something with me that day that completely changed, or that evening, that completely changed the face of my business. It made me think larger. It made me attack larger clients. It made me think differently than my competition. And it truly has set me apart. And I've made tens of thousands of dollars based off of that one conversation with Mike Kim. And so the point of this story is, if you live in abundance, if you show up when you're uncomfortable, that's when beautiful things happen. Look, there are people reaching out to me that say, I can't afford to come out to Growth Now Movement Live. It's a little bit out of my price range. I can't afford to go do this or that, or all these events I want to go to. I can't afford it, or I can't afford a coach, or whatever. Well, guess what? If you don't stretch yourself thin right now, you're never going to be able to afford those things, because you're not going to put yourself in a room full of people who can help you level up. You have to live a life of abundance. You must spend and invest in yourself in order to make more money. And I know it sounds crazy, but this is the truth. And I did not used to believe this until I started to live it myself. And I now push myself out of my comfort zone financially to do things, to level up, to put myself in a room, to continue to level up my life. This isn't just a scarcity mindset thing when we're broke. This is a scarcity mindset thing all the time. We have to live in abundance. So I ask you this: what are you doing this year to make sure you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone from a financial standpoint? Because when you put yourself in an uncomfortable financial predicament, your back is then up against the wall, and beautiful things can happen when you go swinging out of that corner. So I challenge you to invest in yourself. Go do things that are uncomfortable financially for you. And I promise you, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks down the road, you're going to see an exponential return.